really good. Like I sat down and all the stuff that you kind of like find boring didn't find boring at all. I think what I don't know. I think it was in overall it was good. It was very good.
You took too long. I'm tired. All right, fine. Sorry. All right. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Where you guys been? I know we've took a long time to get back to the podcast, and it's only because life is still hitting hard, pretty hard. Last time I was talking about losing weight and stuff like that, and I feel like I have, but I feel like I've been gaining weight. It's kind of weird. So when I was running and stuff like that. I wasn't weightlifting, so when I started to weightlift and do cardio, I feel like I stayed at the same weight, but but now that I'm looking at it, it's like I'm losing fat loss, which is great. Like I think I'm getting more toned. I look like I'm getting more toned, but the fat loss is kind of like it's just shredding off my body, which is great. That's what I wanted. And then to look even more muscular. I mean, it's kind of the best thing to get out of all this. And not look skinnier like I did a couple years ago when I was doing the intermittent fasting for like 2 to 3 months, and it was a lot. I lost a lot of weight, but I also lost a lot of muscle. So, because I was getting tired and stuff like that, so that came with a whole big thing. But other than that, I'm also just trying to learn more things. The channel is growing on YouTube. We're now over 1,000 followers, subscribers. I think we're up to, if I'm looking at it right now, we're up to 1,889 subscribers, which is huge. I didn't expect that. I thought it was going to take maybe till the end of the year, but with shorts helping a lot of the channels and posting, the videos that I posted on YouTube on the shorts and just making it seem well, it's really the ones I posted on TikTok so people could come from TikTok to our YouTube channel. I posted on shorts and it has changed the game. We're almost at 1 million views for the Teen Titans episode. Where Starfire goes into the future and sees Cyborg as an older person, and Robin becomes Nightwing at that point. And you know what's funny? Everyone stayed around the same height except Robin.
Yeah.
Raven stayed the same, and so did Beast Boy, except he got bigger, But Cyborg was pretty much the same size. Other than that, it was just our faces that aged. But yeah, I think we're at a good point where we're getting looked at a lot, and we might get a little we might become we might become a channel that gets monetized, which is really good. So, hey, you know what? We're still fighting the good fight. I didn't post this week only because I just didn't get enough time to finish the video. But this week's video it's going to be postponed until next week. I think we should do at least 1 or 2 videos a week. I think maybe 2 videos a week, 2 videos in a month, but 1 video every week. I think that makes sense. So wait, hold up. So every Saturday I will post around 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. But that would be every week. Just except this past week, only because work was just crazy. And that, but I want to post 2 videos in 1 week in a month. Does that make sense? So you're
Makes
getting
sense.
5 videos within a month. That's just yeah, whatever. Anyways, other than that, I just wanted to I think we should just rant a little. I feel like we should bring that back since we did that the second year of doing the podcast, or I think the first year of doing the podcast, and also just talk about what were we gonna talk about? I totally forgot. Um, Let me see
Well,
my notes.
you wanted to talk about the Mandalorian. I haven't watched it. I seen The Last of Us. You haven't watched it, so we can't really
Right.
talk about that.
Right. Yeah. Can't talk about that because I mean, Mandalorian's like 23 to 25 minutes long an episode. And then you got The Last of Us, which is an hour. Oh, it's almost an hour,
Yeah,
like 45
I've been
minutes.
the funny thing, I also been listening to the Last of Us official podcast with Troy Baker actually doing the interview of the creator of the game, who's
Mhm.
also part of the show and the creator of the show. And it's really like hard hitting questions. Like he really asks the top questions, not like, so what did you think about this? Like it's really gets in there on how they work the dialogue, what question, like the questions that he asked, that and why did he use particular dialogues or certain events, why certain things were changed and things like that. And it's really cool. And the last episode of The Last of Us, when they're talking about it, um, it's it's pretty deep because they really get into Joel's character and the events that transpire at the end of at the end of the show, because it was like really deep, and whether to make certain choices that sort of like, if you were a parent or not a parent, what choices would you make at the end? Because there's a choice that Joel takes that makes, and even in the video game when that choice is made, people were saying a lot of things about it that they didn't like. So they did the exact same thing in the show. And when they're talking about it and how Joel makes that choice, you really go in the heart of what is a parent and who is not a parent, and how being a parent, if you were a parent, of course you would make that choice. If not, if you weren't a parent, then you probably choose otherwise. And it's really cool how they get into it, like the philosophy and the psychology of it, and characters that they wrote about. It's really good at podcasts.
Hmm,
I'm not
interesting.
sponsoring it.
No, 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 no. But yeah, I just wanted to go for a rant, and now that you were talking about it, I don't remember what the rant was, honestly. Oh, okay. Yes. So wait, before the rant, a couple minutes before we started doing the podcast, I was on Twitter and I was like, okay, what's new on Twitter? And apparently, Jonathan Majors has been arrested in New York City or in New York due to having a he was actually, yes, he was arrested in New York City this morning for an assault. Alleged that the victim was reportedly hospitalized and now is in a stable condition. Um, yeah, a lot of people are saying already that Ezra Miller is like another Ezra Miller incident, but Ezra Miller had a lot of incidents before, beforehand, and he was just losing it. So I wouldn't
Yeah,
compare the two like that, but it's almost similar situations.
yeah, but when Ezra Miller did it, he did it. There was no mention of the publicist even saying, remotely saying, that he is a lie, nothing happened. Because the publicist is there to protect you. You know, that if you have a publicist and you're an actor, the whole thing is that he's supposed to protect you if it's a lie. So if what you said is the publicist actually protecting Jonathan Majors, I'm pretty sure it's a lie. Something is up there,
Yeah,
you know,
so
because
the publicist has said that he's done nothing wrong and that we look forward to clearing his name and clearing this up. Now, I mean that could be, I mean, a lot of publicists would say that in a different incident. I never heard anything from Ezra's publicist or anything like that, so I don't know. I don't know. We don't know. We should find more information out when, the time comes. But I would say so far right now, it's looking like it's not good news for Jonathan Majors, and we'll see what happens. You know.
let's see what happens. It's funny because speaking of publicists, in Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum, he was interviewing Sam Witwer, who was the voice of Darth Maul in the Clone Wars, and he was obviously Star Wars: The Force Unleashed. He was also the face of that character, and he was getting interviewed. And at some point, remember he was in the show when he was becoming Doomsday,
Yes.
and they asked him if he had a relationship with Allison Mack at the time. And then when, you know, crap hit the fan on her being in the cult, they wanted to ask him questions saying that he was in a relationship with her during that time and all these things. So he got sort of pissed off. Even TMZ posted it out there. And so he went to his publicist and says, look, this is not true. And you need to squash that, because if I need to get roles, regardless if regardless of it being a lie that it's not true, they might not want to deal with that hassle and that trouble, and they might not hire me. So his publicist actually called TMZ and said, if you could prove with pictures and photos that he is in a relationship with her, you know, then do whatever. But you have to prove that to us. If not, you're gonna have to take back your story. And after TMZ took back the story, every little newspaper and social media decided to take everything back. And he ended up getting the role in Supergirl.
Hmm.
So it's crazy how certain things do pop up without,
I'm
just so they could
rewarding you 5 for the
make it in
man.
the news. And with his popularity, and with Jonathan Major's popularity, it's downright crazy that all of a sudden it's coming out of nowhere. You know, he had two films in the 1 year, or in a span of that 1 month on theaters. Creed 3, and
Yeah.
then if you want to count that he's on Loki,
He was
and
in
then
that.
he
He was in that movie. It's an Air Force type of movie with the guy that was in the Top Gun. He played
yeah,
Frost. Yeah, he was like Frost
yeah.
in a
So
way.
yeah, so in the end of the day, it's like it's sometimes people just want to bring people down at times to just sort of, and now with the way things work these days, no one knows what's going on. You know,
Yeah.
there's been other instances with a lot. I mean, a lot of actors sometimes get a bad rap or something happens, that they get into a fight or things like that. And some actors do admit it. Oh, this happened. Yes, I got arrested. I got belligerent. That was stupid of me. And Ezra Miller a couple of times has been saying, yes, I said this, they did that. Some people said some stories about him and things like that, but at no point whatsoever did he ever go on line to say that, oh, I didn't do this. Or there was never any, even the pub or no information of saying, no, Ezra did not do this,
Hmm.
you know. But right now, and from the looks of it, it looks like they're trying to defend, the publicist is trying to defend him,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So,
He
but anyway, let's see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we should talk about how I didn't want to even see Shazam 2 because the trailers looked eh. The music, I mean, the music was fine. It's Eminem, right? But the trailers just didn't feel appealed. Like, why in the first movie at the end credit scene we get what's his name, Mister Brain? No, that's not his name. The little caterpillar guy. What's his name? Mister Mind. So Mister Mind is one of those that has it's a small little insect, but wants to cause evil in the human world. Anyways, why do you have him at the end of the credit scene with Doctor Savannah, and then all of a sudden you don't even use him for the second movie?
That is true. It
That's
made no
so
sense. It should have been the main.
pointless.
It should have
That
been the
sh-
main villain.
that should have been cool. Should have been huge. I mean, you had Starro for Suicide Squad. Why don't you have him? Have him become huge as freak, and then he has something with Doctor Savannah, and then they have another plot. But instead, you
According
didn't. You wanted to use different gods, which is fine, and then you have dragons in there. Nobody gave a damn. I don't know. It
according to the rumors, if it's true, and it's been mentioned a lot, Shazam was supposed to have the Justice Society.
Yes, that is
And,
also true.
yeah, and The Rock didn't want to have Shazam appear at the end. He wanted Superman. So there was two cameos that were removed from both Shazam and Black Adam that The Rock didn't want. He wanted to do it his own way. So the, the stupid thing is that they're saying that the films could have been better if they would have kept those supposed cameos. But I don't know. I think they if they can't have what they have to work at it as like, okay, we gotta have to work with something else since we can't do anything else with this because we can't have these cameos, then we have to go another angle, you know. And they went this way. What sucked is that they ended up also what they I think they removed Wonder Woman from the cameo, or did they add her on? Because I heard they were removing her due to James Gunn's becoming leading the DC universe. I think Wonder Woman and Superman was supposed to make a cameo in Shazam, and it didn't
Mm.
happen. Uh, And then I hear that the Justice Society was supposed to appear, but who appeared were the people from James Gunn's Suicide Squad instead of the Justice Society. So I don't know. It's with these two, and I'm pretty sure Aquaman is gonna go in the same route. It's it's gonna die. DC universe is gonna die out, and the crazy thing is that for some strange reason, and I don't know why, but how Tom Cruise is out there saying that The Flash is an incredible movie, and the director did a great job.
Yeah, that's really weird. When I saw that, I was like, "What the hell? How does Tom Cruise have any idea? Like, how did he get the rights to see that? Like, what?"
I know it's weird, but then you know what's funny? I was thinking in my head, it's like, why did he say that? And then like a couple of seconds later, I'm thinking in my head, you know, how interesting would he be to be a villain, to play Reverse Flash? He, because to have Tom Cruise play a villain, I've never seen him play a villain except Vampire Lestat in Interview with the Vampire. But you know, he was sort of like he wasn't much of a villain. You know, he did have villain qualities, but I don't know. I could see him because of being Reverse Flash has this cockiness and this sort of charming disposition where he could pull it off. Like the way he was in Flashpoint Paradox. I don't know. Like I could see Tom Cruise being cocky and very like villainous, just with his character, and he doesn't have to he doesn't have to like have the red eyes like they pull off in Flash or things like that. And I think he has that sort of quality to be the Reverse Flash
Yeah, he does
and
have
be
cockiness
petty
with
and
him.
angry. Yeah,
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I do feel bad for the director for Shazam 2. I mean, yeah, I guess he worked very hard on it, and he was also limited, I guess, to what the movie was going to be. But again, like, I don't know. You can't say you can't give an opinion when you haven't seen the movie, and I've said that many times. But I just didn't feel like it was appealing to me. I cared more about Creed 3, which I never even went to go see the Creed movies. I just waited until it came out on like on HBO or somewhere where I could watch it, like Amazon Prime. But
yeah.
yeah, I just didn't give a damn for the Shazam, which is kind of sad because lately that's been going on with a lot of superhero movies. I'm not saying there's a lot of them coming out, but it's just like I don't feel like there's some urgency to go see the movie when it comes out anymore.
Mm, I agree. I think we've been I don't know, I've been feeling like we've been losing sort of touch with that. I think at a certain point it blew up during the Iron Man when Iron Man first came out, and the first Iron Man, and was it when did it came out? Is it 2016?
What?
No. The first Iron Man when it came out.
2008.
2008. Wow. So 2008 it came out, and Marvel blew up. It's still, but it had us go to the theaters every single time. We were we were all seeing a connection with the Avengers and everything. And I feel that Marvel is kind of falling off that, bringing the connections in again, like it bringing in the connections, like they were doing so well with the films that it was overall connection. Now with the shows and the movies, the shows on thing is kind of scattering it a little bit, but you have to follow them. And we're getting, how many storylines are we getting with the Secret Invasion plus Kang the Conqueror coming in, and Thunderbolts coming in. So all of that storylines is kind of scattering throughout. It's not very like a straight line like the Infinity Saga was. That we all knew where it was going to. Thanos was the main boss. We know that Kang is the main boss, but we're not getting those connections in all the films. We only got that connection in Loki and Ant Man.
Doctor Strange
With
Multiverse of Madness, I think too.
Yeah, but
A little
with
bit,
the
but that's more of the
yeah.
incursions that they cared about, and also like different time zone. Also, kind of got that in Spider Man with variants. So there are variant talks, but it's not really like the big bad of like they didn't mention Kang, they didn't have Kang in the mist.
What what I would have loved to see is when Kang was telling Ant Man or Scott Lang about how he probably killed him or killed the Avengers or Thor. In that conversation, I would not have mind seeing a sort of flashback of him being the conqueror and all of them just lay down on the ground, like dead, just to see how powerful he has become and how the world was in a state of just chaos or whatever, just to see how powerful he was to be able to defeat the Avengers. Just saying it, 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 it I feel like it doesn't give a lot of leverage. Like I feel like it needed to sort of be seen, sort of like how the Illuminati ended up beating Thanos. We saw Thanos on the ground, with like half of the gems, and we saw that he was defeated. So I would have loved to see like Kang being the villain, being like the person who just like destroyed them, like sort of a flashback. It's like, this is what happened, or not even what happened, but sort of like I stopped you all, and a little quick flashback of him being him, you know. So because there was moments that could have been removed out of Ant Man that didn't need to be said necessary. 2 3 minutes of conversation moments that were like, this is not needed. Yeah, we don't need this type of humor. Um, I felt that Modoc was just a joke. Um, when this character that um was in the first Ant Man, who wanted to kill his child. It's like he should be taken serious. He should not play it. Do this as a joke. You know. So there was again, it's like, are we right now the only two films that sort of felt like it was it felt great to watch was probably it was is Spider-Man and probably Wakanda Forever. I felt like those are the ones that's still in me to watch. Mostly Spider-Man, and that came after Infinity War. And it's like, can a movie top the amount of characters that came out in the last Avengers?
Yeah, yeah. Um,
'Cause-
yeah, that was a big tangent we just went on, but actually kind of on par. I mean, yeah, Shazam, DC. I don't know what they want to do. It seems like they're just creating they're just doing Elseworld story movies, which is very confusing to other people. I wouldn't say it's confusing to us. Um, with this Flashpoint movie that's going to come out, given that we've seen Ben Affleck now in the new trailer, we see Michael Keaton's Batman 1989 come in, even though that was also in the DC Legends and the whole crossover with the DC Crisis.
yeah,
It's like, where are we? If that flat, now that I think about it, since that was kind of connected to that, right? Wasn't it connected to that Crisis on Infinite Earth
yes, as Ezra Miller did appear as the Flash in the Infinity Crisis, Crisis,
on Infinite Earth? So
in
like,
Crisis of Infinite Earths.
we're gonna see Grant Gustin in that movie? I don't know. I mean, it makes sense that they both have their own flashpoints separately, even though it's connected somehow. I mean, they're never going to explain that ever to us because they don't even know how to explain it properly, I think. But where was I going with this? Does the DC movies matter now? I don't know.
I don't think. I mean, according to James Gunn, he said, okay, with Jason Momoa, because they said the possibilities of him being Lobo with this new change, but James Gunn said he can't be two characters. So what are you saying? Are we keeping Aquaman? Then he also said that the Flash will kickstart an entire universe, which will be perfect if it just ends with Flash and you do not bring Aquaman 2 in. Just let it be. Just let it get washed. Just let Flash wash the entire universe gone and just start the next round of DC movies. Um, Making them Elseworlds, which is cool, is it gives other people the opportunity to make their own Batman films, their own Superman films on the side without having to connect to the overall DC universe, which is great because it gives people freedom to be like, I got a Superman movie of my own story I need to bring out. If we could do this, you know. And then James Gunn said this, which is weird. He says, well, we're going to give Superman and Lois a couple years. He's not giving whatever season how long is it going to be. So I think he said 2 or 3 years, maybe. Which
Did
reminds
the
me,
new season start?
yeah, I saw the first 2 episodes.
Oh, it did start. Okay. Is it
Yeah,
is it good?
yeah. Oh, it's freaking heartbreaking from the beginning.
Oh, it is. Oh, okay, okay. I mean, I know the
Yeah,
new Jonathan is in. I don't know if he kind
yeah.
of it's weird. It's weird to see him be.
No, it's weird, but he looks more like his brother a little bit
Oh,
more. Like when I
okay.
see him, I felt like he looks a little bit more like him. Like they feel more like twins than the other kid,
Okay,
you
okay.
know. And this one feels more like he doesn't feel like he's as like he would be popular. Like the other one felt like he was more like, this one feels I don't know. It's for some strange reason it felt like these brothers felt like they were actual brothers. Like there was a sort of connection between the two, like the way they act, the way they sort of like walk away when they're talking with their parent, like when the parents are like saying go over there, or they're like we're talking, or it's funny. Like it's like I'm looking at it, so it's like he feels a little bit more. They feel more like twins than the other two.
Okay.
I feel like they were always head bumping heads all the time.
Yeah.
The other two. Here, it feels like they're writing it more as if they're very more connected. And then with the story they're going on, they finally show Mannheim. They're showing this new villain. I'm pretty sure she's a female because she looks like she's a female, but she has a mask. I don't know who this character is. I haven't mentioned the name. And she has a mask, and she's able to do sonic sound waves and make it like shoot like pulses of energy that comes out of her face. Pretty powerful. Um, we might see a relationship with Henry Irons and Lana. Um,
Oh, that's weird.
yeah, we might see a relationship with Bippo and Lana's ex. Um, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, um, and yeah, and you could see like Jordan's trying to. There was this one part. It's not much of a spoiler, but it made me understand the relate like him being a hero. Um, there's a moment that Jordan tries to save people, but he caused more damage than he did to save them. And Superman kind of, saves the day, tells him, you cannot interfere. You need to learn more about your powers before you get into anything like that. You know, I will teach you, but it will take, it takes time. You can't jump ahead if you need to save others. And there's a moment where he's hearing people in trouble, and the girl that he's going out with comes to him and says, "Are you hearing something? Is it bad?" And he's like, "Yeah." And you can see it in his face how sad he is that he can't do anything about it, which is like almost breaks my heart that to be able to hear people in danger and you have the abilities to probably save them, but you have to stand back because you don't know if you're going to cause more damage than there already is. And so they're really they're really doing a good job right now. It's opening up pretty well, and right now there's some heartbreaking news in the show that I was like, man, they really just decided to bring this in, and it almost like I'm like literally ready to tear up. So it's like I want to know what they're going with this, and it's it's I think it's so far the 2 episodes is pretty cool.
Okay. Okay.
I like it.
I just like I always think now back to when someone's mentioned Superman Lois is that scene when he goes around the whole world and then just like comes back down to earth and does like that pose but screams in anger and just oh my god, it's just beautiful. I was like, wow, this is in many ways very cliche-ish, but it's
Yeah.
so beautiful and mesmerizing and perfect the way that they did it. Ah, the CGI team just did amazing on that one. It's great. But I'm glad to hear that this season's really good. I mean, I was kind of scared of where they were going with this. Especially last season, I was just like, okay, so we're gonna go to the Bizarro world. All right, so how is that? Then it was kind of cringy a little bit, but it's also like, okay, they really brought it out. Like they just went all out and said, all right, it might feel like it's cringy, but their acting is just so good, man.
No, yeah, I have to agree. There's probably some moments in the show that I felt a little that I feel like okay, this premise here feels a little more like DW esque,
See, yeah.
but but then the overall acting between the characters and Lois and their relationship and just that fun thing between them and the kids is like honestly, it's just the best one of the best Supermans written as a to be be because it has more. He's not just like a hero hiding himself in a relationship with Lois, husband and wife dealing with the day to day. He's always saving her half the time because she's always getting into something stupid. And then he's like, has to save her, but then he has to go do something. Now there's like so much that he has to work on. And it adds more to the Superman character. It's like, the Super Sons and his relationship with his son. Adding that is great. Like yeah, and the way they work as parents as they double team. It's like the best thing ever. It's like I'm telling you, that's like husband and wife,
Yeah,
the
their
best husband
chemistry
and
is
wife.
yeah, the chemistry is perfect. Chemistry is very perfect. Just like perfect. Lois is just perfectly casted. The voice is perfectly cast. I mean, just perfect. It's just a great relationship. You don't want to miss it. And I feel like I've been missing it, but I forgot that it came back. And I'm just watching other shows like Manifest. A lot of people are talking about Manifest on Netflix. I think you should watch it. It kind of feel, since we come from a geek world and geek culture and been watching this science fiction type of stuff, it's very similar. It feels very similar. It's like we already saw this, but there's like more conspiracy added to it. So people in a plane, I think they're going from Jamaica to New York. In the plane, there's like a what they call, they basically disappear, but for them it's only been a couple seconds. For the rest of
Yeah,
the world it's been 5 years, so they come back into the world 5 years later. So relationships are different, people are grown, their kids are grown. Some people lost others, either significant others or parents. People moved on. So you see the relationship, but there's a big conspiracy about it, and it's pretty like okay, it's good. It keeps me wanting to see more because of just the conspiracy. It's like, oh, okay, oh, that happened. What the hell? And then this other character is annoying, but it's also like now they're kind of like working with them in a way, and I don't know. I don't know. It's fun. It's a good conspiracy type of show. That's totally sci-fi-ish. And also they're having callings, kind of like what's going on in the future type of thing. So I feel like I've seen this before. I just can't put my finger on it. It's like a combination of other shows into one. You know what I mean? That's basically what other TV shows have become now, anyways. But
yeah. No, it's funny because I like there's sci-fi shows that I get into, and then there's sci-fi shows that are just like, no, I'm gonna miss this one. I don't think it's gonna last that long because it also depends on what channel they decide to start because I think is I think Lost sort of opened that doorway to the sort. Actually, there was a lot of shows that opened, but I think Lost in the '90s ended up opening that sort of doorway for people to get into that sort of realm of mystery and fantasy and sci-fi. And after that, they started trying to create more shows like that to sort of intrigue people. Um, I remember I didn't get into Lost. Everybody was getting into Lost. They were like, "You should watch it. You should watch it." But that was done by J.J. Abrams. And I remember J.J. Abrams was huge at some point with Lost, Cloverfield, and then he was do what else he was doing. He did Super 8. He was coming up with what was the other stuff that he was coming out? Fringe, Star Trek films. At some overall, J.J. Abrams was all over the place. You know, so I started watching Fringe. I think during the time where Lost was kicking it, so that was his other show. It lasted, I think, 3 seasons. Had that sort of weird alternate dimension type of show where science creates these monsters and all these things. So it honestly is, but it didn't last that long. I think sometimes certain genres don't fit well on certain channels. It seems like sometimes there's like the police, uh the cop shows fall into like one channel that everybody watches, and then there's sci-fi stuff will fit in another genre, and then that genre will fit in another channel. Sometimes it's weird, and sometimes they don't make it. It's like when Young Justice was on, was it in the morning on
I think it was the
Cartoon
morning.
Network, I
Yeah, it was.
think,
I think it was in the mornings.
around in Cartoon Network. But because what came after it was all these little Powerpuff Girls and all these little cartoons that were like more for like 5-year-olds. When Young Justice was telling us stories about adult stories that kids won't probably even process,
Right.
or
Yeah.
5 or 6 years olds won't even get to it.
Yeah.
You know, like I think you have to be sort of a teenager to understand Justice League overall storyline. If you're like, not saying that they wouldn't understand it, but if it was an 8-year-old to see the Justice League, they would understand Superman saving the day and Batman saving the day. But the adult conversations, or of how Luther's becoming president because he wants to kind of Brainiac controlling him, Darkseid coming out, and all these things, and the overall science of it, and the conspiracies in between, over their heads until they grown up and said, I don't even remember half of these. So it's going on a tangent. Honestly, it's very difficult. Hopefully, the shows that are very popular stay where they at, if they're getting views. It's all the time. Sometimes certain things change and shows don't get, this opportunity. And with streaming and everything is, back then we used to have to like switch channels to go see whatever show it is. Now we have to see it through streaming or through Hulu to watch these things, which
Yeah.
is great. Because, and then you could binge watch, and it's like, I'll see it, Tuesday. I don't have to see it on the day it comes out you know
Um. And it's funny because a lot of the animation goes to Cartoon and Disney Plus, Cartoon Network and Disney Plus and Nickelodeon, but also, I think it'd be cool to see DC stuff in Cartoon Network instead of the CW. I get that they're trying to add drama to it, but I feel like Cartoon Network is that type of home for DC that they've established and built, that I don't think it should have that type of drama anymore. If they know that people are not watching it because of the way that they write it like that, they should totally get different writers and new writers that are tired of that type of drama. Like, again, we go back to like the really basic line of you are not the Flash, we are the Flash. And it's like, that's not it doesn't add any drama to it. It's just lines that are given to the character, but it doesn't feel it doesn't feel fulfilling to the character. And also given that comics are soap is basically soap opera in a comic book, you know uh
yeah.
paper, but in a book, but it shouldn't be fully. I don't know. I just think it should be in a different network, because a different network would change the writing. It's given a different direction. It's a huge cinematography change for it. I mean, we've seen that with Superman Lois. It's written differently. It used to be on CW, but it didn't feel like CW because of the way that it was handled, given that HBO was really, trying to push it out of CW at that time. You know, it wasn't with the CW production, I would say, but still.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's very
Or give it the
it's
or move, like, even though Flash is now finally ending, like, what if Flash were to have been on HBO and had been given that writing, like, whoa, like Superman Lois, and that cinematography. Like, it would
it's
have been
just
darker, but it would have been, I think, brighter for them in a way.
it's the thing about it. It's I don't know if it came out of the sort of Smallville. I mean, Smallville was great, and but I feel like every time they come out with like a CW show, it's like The Flash and or Green Arrow. We got Green Arrow, then we get we get Diggle, then we get Felicity Smoke, then we get freaking three Black Canaries, then we get a whole bunch of these things. We get Speedy, we get all of these characters. The overall lore of what Green Arrow is, all the characters, and then it's like it stops becoming at some point it stops becoming a Green Arrow show and it becomes Green Arrow and the team.
Green
You
Arrow
know,
and Friends, you know?
yeah, Green Arrow and Friends, and then the Flash. It's the same way that you get all these other characters. They alter their storylines, and then we get a new a team, and they're all working together to stop this one villain. And then there's
That's
the
what Smallville didn't do, though. Like, yes, certain episodes, we had different characters with different powers, and the villains were really the people with powers. Sometimes, like, we got Aquaman at one episode, Green Arrow for a while stayed on, but it didn't feel like it was their show. They weren't given that much screen time compared to what they wanted to give other characters and Clark. Clark was there
yeah
most of the time, and that's what I liked. It with Flash and Arrow, it just kind of, the story was different between the two. The two characters are differently written differently. The show is written differently, but it started to become and Friends. Green Arrow and
yeah
Friends,
yeah
Flash and Friends.
yeah.
DC Legends, I think, would have been great, and in a way, it's like their Doom Patrol, but then it got a little too quirky for my
Yeah, if
taste.
a show the thing is, if a show is about a team, I would understand that there has to be a team that are working together. But then you're introducing characters after character after character to sort of just to have Flash be in a relationship with other people. So we won't have just Flash just saving the day half the time or or dealing, with certain things. Um but at some point it worked back then in the 90s when they had the Flash for Wesley Chips. He was on his own. Yeah, he had relationship. Iris was there, and there was friends because he had a scientist friend that was there, and then there was villains. But the end of the day, it wasn't Flash and friends. It was Flash. You know, they knew about his identity and things like that, but it wasn't like, hey, let's go find out where this villain is, and then go find Tech. It's like, oh, now it's becoming a freaking sort of Justice League type thing. They're always trying to create like this sort of the Flash in the League type thing, or the Arrow in the League type.
I mean, it could
Yeah.
be if they changed and reinvent the wheel and say, hey, we're gonna stop Flash for a minute, but we'll have this on the sideline. I mean, that could be a thing. Why don't you, instead of just having individual characters have their individual shows, why don't you have a big show with the whole team? You know,
See, that's what I love also about
animated
sometimes
movies or
with
animated
well
series.
animated movies and sometimes British TV shows. They're not afraid to change certain things in for the overall storyline, like on the show Being Human. you get the character of a ghost, a vampire, and a wolf living together. And in the future, they were ended up changing, and they ended up changing the characters to change the storyline. And certain times they're not afraid to sort of like, we're shifting this right now. Let's do this way. Um, look at you know Doctor Who when uh, uh um what was his name? The first Doctor. Well, the first Doctor, if you've seen the biopic that was on BBC during the 50th anniversary, he wasn't he was getting ill. He wasn't being able to read the scripts anymore. He was finding it difficult to read the dialogue. And in there, and because they didn't want to cancel the show, they decided to regenerate the character into another actor who was able to do it instead of just like, we're gonna cancel Doctor Who. And so sometimes you could change that. I would, it would have been great if we would have done the whole Barry Allen disappearing during the Crisis of Infinite and doing the whole thing where he beats the Anti Monitor, and then Wally West takes the place,
They're like, why don't they
and
do that? Yeah,
and then
reinvent the
yeah,
wheel, reinvent the character. You have different people that take up the mantle. Use it. Give it a break. You're not saying you're gonna not bring them back. We're gonna see them back. We're gonna see the actors back. That's, I
yeah.
think, what Stephen Amell should have done. Instead of him dying through in the whole crisis. Spoilers. Um, he could have been gone for a minute, and we could have had his daughter. I mean, that's what they wanted to bring, or not even his daughter, Roy. Bring him back. I mean, I don't know why he left the series, anyways, but.
The thing is that, and it sucks because it also depends on the writer, on the actors, on or what they're trying to do, and sometimes and you were seeing it a lot of shows where the main characters females don't often succeed, and I don't know why, because there's been a lot of shows that females are very strong. I think Buffy last went very, very long. 10 seasons, I would like to say, probably 10, 11. I think of Buffy went. I remember during that time it was on WB before it became CW, and then it ended up in the UPN channel 9
Hmm.
because they were doing some contracts and stuff. And then when it went to UPN, I think the WB became the CW, and they kept Angel, which lasted 5 seasons. But the overall, the female, yeah, that character was there, and Alias too, which I think was done by Abrams. I think Abrams did Alias, I believe. So, but they were trying to come up with different character, female leads and stuff like that, and it never went. A lot of the characters didn't like. We're not going to put money on it because they're male characters. So I feel like the Canary thing was didn't, because I feel like they were not gonna go behind these characters. They were not gonna be appealing characters, and I feel like they weren't even appealing in the show. And I feel like putting a show, I mean, the characters are great when they're with those characters, but by themselves, I don't know if it's gonna work.
Well, even with Stephen Amell's character, like, if he was just brooding all the time, yes, I think they should have, like, we've been waiting for the more, I wouldn't say quirky, Green Arrow, but it was more, he was mostly, giving one-liners and making jokes here and there while fighting, but also keeping, he was agile. He wasn't Batman brooding.
Yeah.
And
No, he was. Yeah, that's why its relationship with Green Arrow was so cool. They have that sort of like witty banter, joking around, and things like that. Even when Kevin Smith was writing for the Green Arrow, he was the jokes were hilarious. They were fun. His relationship with Hawkman was fun to read, and things like that. So it was like we're getting uh, a combination of Batman and Green Arrow, which I understand he's struggling to get these things, you know, but he was a funny guy. He was, and we saw that in the Justice League. You know, even with his relationship with Canary, or even with the Justice League, when he got serious, he got serious. But even in which I found funny, I think it was Alan Tudyk who was playing the voice of him. Is it Alan Tudyk who was playing the voice of him in Unlimited, or was it in the Green Arrow with the John Stewart? Either or, it didn't matter. But he was still comedic, but he still did the job right, and he was still Green Arrow.
It was it's gonna be 4 people. Wilfredo, Wilfredo, Kinshirny. No, no,
Wolf
no.
Will Friedle? Oh, sweet. He was the one who
Wilfredo.
played Batman Beyond.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. He was, yeah. Um. Anyways, damn, I had something to say for that, but I don't remember. But I think we should end it here, anyways. Well, I'll cut this. Um. I did get tired
Yeah,
of in Arrow.
it wasn't long because you were making margaritas.
Yeah, that's true. You know what? You know what? I was getting pissed off in Arrow, and I'm probably in a minority here. But every single time in the first season, I think in the second season, they would always have flashbacks of him going to him living his life in the island. I was so over the island.
Yeah, it was 5 seasons, and they finally
Oh,
removed on out of the island. The only time that I liked when he was in the island is when Constantine came in. That was the only time.
mm,
Every other one was like the Deathstroke situation, his relationship with the Asian chick that Deathstroke liked and he liked, and honestly, no. What pissed me off as a storyline that I feel like this should not be, whoever wrote this was very stupid, was Deathstroke. He was the villain at some point in the season. He killed his mother, and a couple of seasons later, he's talking to him as a friend. That's th- if somebody killed my mom and I was the Green Arrow, I'm not gonna become friends with you.
yeah, yeah.
I'm going to go after you. And I remember there was a comic book of Green Arrow. I think it was the JSA. Um, what was his name? The bad guy. Oh, I think it was the Prometheus. Prometheus. He went on a freaking spree. I think he ended up killing Arsenal at some point, and something happened, and he Green Arrow put an arrow into his head. He was the one who killed Prometheus back then, because Prometheus was literally causing massive havoc, and he was the only one who felt like he needed to be stopped. And it was pretty powerful to see him in that way. There was another comic book, I can't remember, but I think it was written by Kevin Smith, where this guy hurts one of the villains. I don't know if it was Onomatopoeia or Prometheus, but I think it was Speedy, and he was in surgery and he was in critical condition. So the main villain was there who did this to Speedy, and Green Arrow is literally pulling the arrow into his head and said, if he doesn't make it, this arrow's going to your head. Like, he's literally like this while the doctors are doing surgery, pointing the arrow into his head. And I was like, see, in the first season, we ended up getting that sort of I'm killing the bad
Yeah,
guys in
yeah.
Green Arrow, you know, and it was enjoyable to see that because we don't get DC heroes who kill, you know. Uh, we get the sort of Punisher characters like Red Hood to kill because that's his agenda. But once we see Green Arrow, we don't see that. He's the hero. He's like Batman, but a little bit more comedic, and he shoots to wound, or he has a glove, a punching glove arrow. But here, in the beginning of Arrow, we got to him to start killing, but things needed to change because then nobody will see him as the hero he's supposed to. Even though I'm pretty sure people were seeing him as a hero, regardless. And sometimes again, CW wants to write the characters the way they want to write it because they feel like, oh, this is an alternate version of this character. We don't need this. But even in the times that CW has written about Green Arrow, Justin Hartley ended up with with Chloe, and
Which I wasn't a big fan of, but I
it,
feel like they also didn't give him a good love story. Like they kind of hinted at it, Black Canary, but still, yeah.
yeah, they both ended up having the Black Canary in the show because Black Canary did appear in Smallville, and we thought like, oh, they're gonna hook them up. No, they totally scrapped that, and they have them go in a relationship with Chloe, and they did the same thing with Arrow. With they
Felicity.
decided to have her with Felicity.
Yeah, he got with two tech nerds, which is funny, in two different separate shows. Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think next 2 to 3 weeks again we're gonna try to come back and talk about either Creed. Well, I'm definitely gonna catch up on The Last of Us because I know there were big discussions about The Last of Us and season finale. I know that the second season, I heard that they're not gonna bring. Yeah, so they're recasting the girl, right? Because she's a couple years older, so they're gonna do part two, right, in the next season.
Uh, I know they're gonna do season two, but I think that I think they're keeping the girl. It's a by then. I'm pretty sure she's gonna be
Oh,
a
I,
little.
I I don't know what happens. I don't know if it actually like if they finished it like the first movie. So I don't know.
No, because I know The Last of Us still has the part two. I mean, they're gonna go by the directors and the creators said this is like, we're gonna sort of keep that sort of essence that the first show have, that just like the game. That's what they're not gonna change. There'll be alterations. They're gonna be new. Um, they're gonna definitely. They said they want to add more clickers and bloaters. They said that we're gonna see a lot
I
more
I still haven't
of
seen
those.
the clickers, so I'm excited to see the clickers in episode 3. I think that's when they come in. I mean, it's in that
Eh,
building. I know they go into that skyscraper that's like tilted, so I'm ready
yeah,
for that. Yeah.
and they do show a bloater,
Oh,
and
okay.
and yeah, so it's really cool. That dude was like not Hulk size, but Hulk strength, just
Oh, okay.
literally tossing things left and right. And I was like, this is what we need. I was sick and tired of seeing The Walking Dead and seeing zombies being very slow and still not manage to dodge these zombies. And here it's like they run after you, which it's a little bit more scary,
Okay.
and the way it works and scientifically, it's freaking genius. I think they did a good job sort of using actual science and sort of m- you know making it a little bit bigger, and they did a good job instead of the usual zombies. It's like you die, you come back to life, and still didn't make any sense to me.
All right. Well, with
Oh,
that Yeah. With that being said, we'll catch you next time, hopefully 2 to 3 weeks. But we're still gonna be posting YouTube videos. Next video I said is a not Young Justice, a Teen Titans episode. Instead, we'll catch you guys next time. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, as Geek Mythos, YouTube Geek Mythos, Instagram Geek Mythos. I mean, everywhere Geek Mythos except the podcast. So if you want to go on Spotify, Geek Mythos Podcast. You want to go on your, what was it, iHeartRadio Geek Mythos Podcast? I think we're on iHeartRadio. I'm not so sure. Amazon audiobooks and slash podcast. We're on there. I think it's music and podcast. Geek Mythos Podcast. So until then, I'll catch you next time. Have a good one, guys. Bye.